A lot of the history that we learn is the representation from a Western eye. So it's when other people came to this country and learned about and watched and saw what was happening. That is presented as history. It's when Christopher Columbus lands in America that America gets discovered. Like all the people that lived here prior to that don't really matter. Martial arts has been part of Indian culture and Indian history from, say, more than 14,000 years. Okay. From the time of Ramayana, legend has it that it was Parashurama. And Parashurama is like an avatar. He would kill Kshatriyas all the time. And he was basically a warrior. He was a warrior who taught this particular form of martial arts called Kalaripayattu, which is now, you can even see it in Kerala, in just one small state. But this type of training, it is said that under the Gupta Empire, which is around the 3rd, 4th century BC, there were 130 types of weapons that one had to master. And fighting was hand to hand. There weren't drones and drills and things that could be done long distance. Everything was hand to hand. And when we visited Kerala, we had the honor of watching a show where they demonstrated their art or their skill. Back in the day, when this was the training that soldiers were given, it was beyond all caste. So a peasant could learn this and join the army, and a Kshatriya, who is a warrior clan, from the warrior clan, could learn this as well. Brahmins could learn this as well. So it did not matter what caste you belonged to, you could learn the martial arts, right? And it didn't matter if you were a female or a male. Women were permitted to learn. Women were permitted to fight, right? That's strange to learn. Some of the most prominent Buddhist teachers were women. And you see, Hinduism wasn't a religion as you know it today. It was a way of living. It was a way of living for the people that lived in the entire subcontinent of India, right? And this subcontinent, at one point of time when it was a second ice age, it included everything from Africa and Europe all the way to Cambodia. All those countries were at one point of time or another under the control of some Indian king. And there were so many kings that came and went. The video that I sent you was about a kingdom called the Pallava kingdom. And that Pallava kingdom ruled in the south of India near Tanjavur, Mahabalipuram, Chennai. These are modern places. And they had a huge army and a wonderful navy. They went all the way to Angkor Wat and all Cambodia and all these places. They traded with so many things. Some remnants of their trade is even found in Peru and Mexico. There has been trade and movement from India to all these places. We're not sure when all of this happened. But the world was a smaller place. People connected with each other. And the training was intense. It was not for the faint. It was not for the faint-hearted. If you've seen martial arts capoeira, that's a Brazilian martial arts that was started by the slaves in the jungles to fight against their masters, and it was banned. They would do it to music and to dance. It's really interesting to watch how the dance, the moves are, so that their masters would think they were dancing and not preparing to fight. Okay. If you look at the training for Indian martial arts, it is intensely based on yoga asana. That's the preparation. Meditation is the preparation. Pranayama is the preparation. Patanjali Yoga Sutras that all yoga schools talk about, that, oh, there are, they talk about teaching all of this. There are only 3 verses on yoga asana. In all of that, in all of the, I don't know exactly how many, 180 verses, 3 are dedicated to actual physical body work. Asana, which is the movement, the yoga asanas that you normally see in a yoga studio. People think that asana is everything, and they stop there. They think physical activity is everything, and they stop. But the ancient Indians understood very clearly how much the mind controls it. Because when you are in a situation and you're fighting hand to hand, if you're thinking about the time when you made a mistake and the other guy got you in the throat, oh my God, I shouldn't have made that mistake. It would have been horrible for me. I would not have survived. That's it. You're gone in the combat. That moment is everything. When you're in individual combat, every stroke that you make, every movement that you make has to be incisive and correct and focused. At that moment, nothing else matters except the movement that you're making. The training is intense for them to just rid the body and rid the mind of all conditioning. See, the body is very conditioned. It is very conditioned. At a certain time every day, the hunger will rise. Whether you like it or not, at around 8 o'clock in the morning, when you're used to eating your breakfast, if you're sitting in meditation, you're going to feel that rumble in your tummy. But if you're sitting in meditation, you watch that rumble come, you allow it to come, you allow it to go, and you stay present. When you do that, you're breaking the conditioning of the body. Our ancients realized that conditioning is what prevents us from being successful in the world. This training that you get of being intensely present, physically strong, eating the right kind of food, working out at the same time every day, prepares you for something more. If you don't add that dimension to your exercise, you may be working out and listening to some music, and your mind is on the music. Whereas people, yogis, the only sound they hear is a sound that is taking place right now in this moment. When in the Mahabharata, there is a very famous story where the teacher, Dronacharya, calls all the princes and says, take aim and tell me what you see. And one prince says, I see the tree and I see birds on the tree. And the second prince will say, I see a branch, I see a tree, I see a bird on that tree. And then Arjuna, the prince, the chosen prince, or the one that's the most focused, the yogi among them, says, what do you see? He says, I see the eye of the bird. Just that. This is what yoga gets you. This is what yoga gives you. It gives you that intense presence. When you're intensely present, all the other stuff that's happening with the body goes away. It goes away. when you're faced and when you're training for martial arts, if you are not kicking at the right time, your throat is gone. Right? So I was, after you spoke to me, I was just looking, and there's not enough videos on Indian martial arts, and I wondered why it's not more popular than you expect. I saw that in 1807, the British outlawed it. They outlawed every type of martial arts in the country. And for 100 years, people were not allowed to practice it. It was illegal. It was punishable by death. It's hardly a wonder that yoga, meditation, and all our beautiful practices are not more commonplace, are not more rampant. It needs to be revived. It needs to be revived because the physical training that you get from martial arts is incomparable. It's hours and hours of dedication. It's not something you send your child for 1 hour on Fridays. It cannot be learned that way. It is a dedication to the master. It is a mastery of anatomy, because there are 64 marmas, they call them, points in the body that they learn to aim for. So when you're using your weapons, whether it's a stick or it's a knife, or they have knives that are, I was kind of shocked. I never knew that there were all these weapons. It's a knife that's got a flowing blade. I mean, it can destroy you if used correctly. The kinds of weapons that they fight with is like shocking to see that they had those kind of weapons. And they understood the body so well because there was no surgery. The master himself knew exactly how to heal the body if any of those points were hurt. Marma Chikitsa, it was called. That the master was so well informed of anatomy, of the physical body, of the world, of the whole process of warfare. That warfare was a science and an art in itself. And the warriors that stood out were the ones that were yogis. A yogi is nothing but a master of his mind. The one that has acquired through the Ashtanga process, through all the process of just, dealing with the world, getting rid of bad things that they possess. So yoga is not just about sitting and doing a few exercises or breathing. It's about getting rid of bad habits. It's about inculcating good habits. It's about telling the truth. It's about understanding the difference between truth and falsehood. It's about creating wisdom and intelligence within yourself, that body and body intelligence and the superior intelligence of the mind come together, fuse together. That is the yoga. That is the yoga. Every time I post a video on TikTok, people will tell me, the noise of the world is too loud. The noise of the world is too loud. But a yogi can silence that noise, that cut through it with the incisiveness of the decisiveness of the present moment. This moment is nothing. And I love that in that video that of Bodhidharma, where the Han dynasty was a small kingdom. If you notice, China was not this huge country, right? There were other kingdoms there were the Huns and the Kushans and the Parthians, so many kingdoms that ruled over that area, that spread Buddhism. And Buddhism was Hinduism. There was no difference. Hinduism absorbed within itself every religion till the advent of Islam and Christianity. And they wanted to physically convert you. But see, we didn't have that concept of conversion. Everything was part of it. You are part of me. This is also good. That is also good. This is also good. Let's take it all. Let's become one. There is no converting to Hinduism. You lived a good life. You were a good Hindu, right? There was nothing like that. Till all these people came and said, oh, no, one by the sword, one by something else. They started converting people, and they saw these practices as dangerous, as weird, as different. Imagine outlawing it and killing an entire way of living where thousands of people went, not belonging to any particular caste, women included. Imagine that even in the army we have had great warriors like Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, who were warriors, learned how to fight with the sword, and the swords weighed about 15 kgs. Oh, that's about 25 pounds. Okay, so that itself is an exercise. To move that through the air is an exercise. Yeah. Martial arts was brought to China by Bodhidharma and Batua. There were two monks, Buddhist monks, that brought this whole system into the Shaolin temples. And the funny thing is that when the king Wu, he built a lot of temples for Buddha, and asked Bodhidharma that I've built a lot of temples. What will I get from Buddha, from the God? And Bodhidharma looked at him. He says, "You will get nothing." And he had to flee because the king got very angry with him. He had to flee. And I tell you that even when you practice intensely, you meditate, you breathe, you ask me, what am I going to get? And I'm going to tell you the same thing. Nothing. You're going to get nothing. But you might lose the anxiety, you might lose the guilt, you might lose the tendency to blame, you might lose the tendency to feel, stress, misery. Now, those are great things to lose. It will be a process of what we call in Sanskrit, neti. Not this, not that, not this, not that. You keep taking off your hats as you practice. And these kind of arts are best started as, when children are young. You put your child in when they're 5 or 6.
Logan started at 4.5.
You gotta start really, really young. And they live in those gurukuls. They live with the master. They find him, they make food for him. They press his feet when he's tired. That was the system. You dedicate yourself, your life entirely to the master. And in return, you learn how to control your mind and your body and to live a life that's completely peaceful, completely happy. And mind you, the entire army was made of people like this. Amazing. It's an amazing thought.